He rose from a sea of revolution, draped in glory, carrying both a sword and a law book. To some, he was a hero, to others, a monster. He crowned himself emperor and tried to bend all of Europe to his will. Was Napoleon Bonaparte a savior of the revolution, or the man who crushed it beneath his boots? Welcome to the Timeless Brew. In this episode, we explore the life and legacy of Napoleon Bonaparte, a man who remains one of history's most polarizing figures. His story is filled with contradictions: liberty and dictatorship, progress and bloodshed, revolution and empire. So today we're laying out the facts, the praise, and the criticism, and leaving it to you to decide: was he a visionary or a villain? Let's begin. After the French Revolution erupted in 1789, Europe descended into chaos. Monarchs across the continent feared the revolutionary tide would reach their shores and their thrones, so they struck first, invading France in an effort to crush the new republic. At home, things were no better. Extremism flourished. Factions turned on each other. Blood flowed not only from the monarchy, but from anyone seen as disloyal. Amid this turmoil, one man began to rise: Napoleon Bonaparte. He was a young, skilled military officer, and he claimed to support the revolution and its ideals: liberty, equality, fraternity. But as France's early revolutionary leaders fell, some by execution, others by failure, Napoleon seized his moment. Critics say he overthrew the very government he claimed to protect. They call him a tyrant. They say he only rose to power to satisfy his ego and mask his insecurities. But there's another view. Defenders argue that Napoleon stepped in when no one else could lead. Robespierre and the Jacobins, who took power early in the revolution, unleashed a reign of terror, executing opponents, attacking religion, spreading fear. When they fell, they were replaced by the Directory, an unstable, incompetent oligarchy that struggled to keep France together. Napoleon's supporters claim he brought stability, structure, and leadership. He didn't just grab power, he was given it, they say, through a new constitution approved by popular vote. Was that constitution forced through by a military coup? Perhaps, but it brought with it a new legal code and reforms that preserved key achievements of the revolution. Under Napoleon, France saw freedom of religion, the abolition of hereditary privilege, and equality before the law for all men, but not for women. One of the revolution's achievements had been the expansion of women's rights. Napoleon rolled many of those back. Worse still, he reinstated slavery in the French colonies, most notably in Haiti, which still bears the scars of that decision centuries later. So, was he defending liberty, or only choosing which liberties to protect? Then there's the question of war. Critics argue that Napoleon didn't just defend France, he launched an offensive across the continent. Even after peace was achieved by 1802, he couldn't stop. They say he enforced a brutal blockade on Britain, invaded countries that didn't comply, and spilled blood to hold onto territory. Millions died in the wars he waged. The international order was shattered, but his defenders have a different view. They say France was the one under attack twice by monarchies that feared the spread of liberty. Napoleon, they argue, understood that the best defense is a strong offense, and beyond warfare, he reshaped Europe, sweeping away fragmented feudal territories and replacing them with modern secular nation states. In his wake, people had more rights and power than ever before. Still, some say his legacy also includes the rise of nationalism, the glorification of military might, and a path that eventually led to even darker times a century later. And then it all came crashing down. Napoleon's seemingly unstoppable momentum froze, literally, in the Russian winter. Most of his army perished. He was deposed, exiled, but not broken. He escaped, returned, and made one final dramatic push to reclaim power. But in the end, he was defeated for good. So, how do we judge a man like Napoleon? He defended a popular revolution by becoming an absolute ruler. He spread liberal ideals through conquest and war. He shaped the modern world while leaving it soaked in blood. A visionary, a tyrant, or something far more complicated? That is for you to decide. Thanks for listening to the Timeless Brew. Until next time, stay curious.